Welcome to the Traveller 2025 Mayday event. I'm your host, Frank Succardi of CyborgPrime Games. My guest today is Mr. Neil Thorpe of 2D Storyteller, maker of animated battle maps for VTT and Tabletops. Welcome back, Neil.
Thanks for having me, Frank.
It's nice to see you again, or virtually hear you.
Well, it's nice to virtually hear you too. We'll have to. I promise I will get a camera for our next meeting, and we'll finally be able to. Our eyes will finally meet across a crowded planet.
Oh, it will be interest at first sight. So Neil, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, what do you do, and how do you do it?
Well, I'm 2D Storyteller, as you said, and I create animated battle maps. I also create animated tokens, all for role-playing games. Traveller, Cyberpunk, Dungeons and Dragons, etc., etc. The whole gamut, really. My assets are usually system agnostic, so they only really fall into the genres rather than individual games. And I create them for virtual tabletops, but I also create them for TV tabletops. And yeah, that's my modus operandi at the moment.
So tell us a little bit about how you got into gaming to begin with. Like, you don't have to go through details of your entire origin story, but why don't you give us some?
Well, I was bit by a radioactive role player when I was 16. And,
yeah, okay.
I suddenly broke out in spots, and I decided to lock myself away and eat ice cream. But seriously, I had that anyway. So, yeah, I've been into gaming since, 95. I got involved in my local roleplay group, and yeah, I fell in love with it. And then I later went on to teach at a university, teaching graphic design and visual effects. And I just suddenly thought out of the blue, well, why don't I combine these two passions of mine? And hence, that's where 2D Storyteller was born.
Oh, very cool. And what was your first... Go on, sorry. I didn't mean to step on you. There's a little delay.
Sorry. That was my brief. No,
okay.
No, the delay. It's okay.
All right. So, tell me a little bit about how the early days of 2D Storyteller went. Did you have some hardships? Were there some stumbling blocks, or was it easier or more difficult than you anticipated to get your own gaming business going? Or
Well, starting any business is tough. As I'm sure anyone who's done it will attest to that. You know, you've got to know what you're doing. You've got to be good at creating things. You've got to create things that people care enough about to actually spend their hard-earned money on. And then you've got to find a way to get into the market and find a place that you can, really shine and show your work off. So, yeah, I mean, it was tough to begin with because the tendency is to emulate things that are already there. And I think that's largely a mistake. You should always try and stand on the shoulders of giants, so to speak. So I think the hardest bit was finding the things that I liked to create that had a unique sales point as well, which is why not only I started off with just static battle maps and tokens, which was all right, and that was a good way of learning the market, learning what kind of creative rotation I was going to have, and actually getting
establishing your production pipeline. And
exactly, that was my way of planting my feet. But after a while, I started to incorporate more and more VFX techniques into what I was doing, and I realized, animation can really add something extra to a game that maybe some other people either can't or don't offer. And then I was lucky. I stumbled upon the thing that really helped me plant my feet was I stumbled upon something which no one else seemed to be doing, which was, as opposed to having fully animated maps, which I do have, but was creating parts of a map which are animated and that can be told to play at a certain time. So rather than, a static battle map doesn't move at all, an animated battle map's moving constantly. But what I call interactive assets are part of a map that can move when the GM tells it to. Like, I have one of my maps has a drawbridge that's interactive. So whenever the GM wants to, they can click a button, hit play, and this big drawbridge dramatically opens. And yeah, so I also do create interactive assets. That's one USP that I indulge in.
That sounds really cool. Like, I guess you could have like cannons that fire, or ballistas that shoot,
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
like signal fires that get lit.
Yeah, I mean, in one of my sci-fi, well, hostile organism, I have like the alien monster coming up out of the floor tiles or coming out of the wall, or you can trigger certain parts of a computer console, and the engines will unscrew and glow and come out and stop, and then you can press play again, and they'll go back in. You know, things like that. Once you realize, what's amazing is just a simple function about whether or not the animation is toggled, and for the GM to be able to press play. Well, then, as long as you create an animation that plays to that function, there's actually a load of ideas that you can, and that really helped me plug into having something unique to offer. So my interactive assets are a big draw as well, which I include in most of my packs these days.
Are the animations can they be played as one shots or loops, and are they set up that way?
You can, well, the thing is, if something's needs to loop, then it's very basic principle. The end of the animation and the beginning needs to be exactly the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of case specific. The unscrewing engine, for example, the example I just gave you, it's perfect. You could pause that in the middle and just have the console waiting for the player to interact with it, and then press play again, and it'll go back into the wall that it came out of.
Mm.
But for example, that alien monster coming out of the wall, as I said, that wouldn't loop very well unless all of a sudden the alien comes out of the wall and goes, I'm evil and dangerous, and now I'm going to go back into the wall and make it look fine again. So yeah, it's case specific.
All right, yeah, cool. I saw some of the actual. You have like a train robbery map or something. And it's the ground is going by. And looks like chase scenes and stuff.
Chase scene, yes, that's my D&D based, well, I suppose it's fantasy based chase scene, and I liked the idea of having a constantly moving map. At first, it messed with my eyes because you got something constantly moving, and your brain's kind of, in a way, kind of gets entranced in it, and it feels you should be moving, kind of like when you're using virtual reality,
right?
But you adapt to that very quickly. So that usually when I'm creating a project, I have this terrible habit where I'll allow my ideas to snowball, and before you know it, I've made far too much for any one pack, but I just put it out anyway. Like that chase scene, I just thought, it'd be cool to have a moving map that you could, the cavalry are riding on and doing a scene where it's in mid-chase, and I ended up creating, I ended up including in the pack, like, human people on horseback, orcs on the backs of wargs, undead on the backs of skeletal horses, a skeletal dragon that's following. You know what I mean? I just let it totally get out of hand. But you know what? That's good for the buyer. The customer, they get plenty in the pack. So I suppose it's not all bad.
Yeah, that sounds like it sounds like a lot of work, man. How long does a pack typically take?
Every pack's different, and to be honest, it's. Oh God, I'm going to be really English. But to quote Leonardo da Vinci, no project is ever completed, merely abandoned. I could work on any of these projects and just keep going and building more and more and more. So I can't put a time frame on it. To be honest, it just doesn't. It don't work like that. It depends what I'm making, how much far I want to go, how much scope, but most importantly, how much it's getting my own personal creative juices flowing. Because if I'm enjoying creating something, I tend to not want to stop. And the closer I get to the end, the more I resist stopping. And that's something I'm having to learn, to just hold back and say, right, that's that. Now, if I want to carry on, I'll do it on a different one. I mean, chase scene, it still keeps my imagination going because I've just started, well, I've almost finished a cyberpunk version of the chase scene where it's cars and motorbikes and vans.
Yeah, cool.
And gangsters.
Yeah, no, you could do all kinds. You could do like airships flying over clouds. You could do.
See, now you've just added another week onto that project.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. All ideas great to receive. I'll get you cut later. Um, but the difficult thing with that one, for example, that's to get it looping right, especially when for Cyberpunk, you're going down a street, so there's lots of different objects there, and you've got to trick the eye with a loop. That's the key. And the more distinctive a part that's not in the beginning of the end that gets noticed, the more likely it is that the conscious mind will register that it's just a loop. Because that's what you want them to do. You want them to forget that a loop is going on in the background.
Right.
Like when you're playing on TV tabletop, the duration of my TV tabletop battle maps are about a minute. And that gives the players who are playing on the table just long enough to kind of forget that it's just started or just finished. And after about 10 minutes, you forget that it's looping at all, and you're just focused on the miniatures and the war game or the skirmish game that's going on. That's, sorry, I ramble. You'll have to rein me in at some point, Frank.
No, super interesting into the audience too. I'm interested in what those TV tables or whatever. Is that just a way to project a static or animated map underneath the miniatures?
Well,
do they have touchscreen TVs, or is there a GM who's moving the tokens around on the?
Right. Okay. Well, let me
help. Explain.
Let me break it down for you, homeboy.
I've never played it.
Right. Well, let me bring you into that world. So. Have you ever played anything like Warhammer, Star Wars Legion, any kind of tabletop game with miniatures?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Starfleet Battles and...
Starfleet Battles, that's an excellent one. X-Wing, that's another great one. Star Wars Armada, that's something I love to play.
Yeah, I used to play Tabletop Mech Warrior Battletech when it first came out.
Oh, yes, Mech Warrior. Now, I've tried to get into Mech Warrior, I'll be honest, but I'm terrible at... When it comes to systems, it just it's a struggle. But people love it so much, I really want to play it. I love the games, the computer games. Anyway, I digress. So imagine you're playing something like BattleTech, and this battlefield that you're playing on, like say it's a city. So if you have a TV tabletop, which rather than a projection, it's a TV laid flat, basically. How you secure it and how you make the TV tabletop, that's for a different discussion. But you got a TV tabletop, and you want something to protect the screen. Usually a thin piece of clear perspex is what I use. Well, polycarbonate, but it's as long as it is short. Just to protect your screen from the miniature's edges or something like that, because you don't want to scratch your screen.
Sure, right.
So imagine your BattleTech area that you're playing on, the battle map or battle mat. Is animated. So, when you're playing around these buildings, you could have smoke coming out of them, you could have burning craters, wrecks of mechs, or if, there's some opportunity in the battle map for some scenery that's maybe not directly interactive, but you can see in the distance. I've got a couple of Cyberpunk ones that are set on elevated buildings. So in the background, you're basically looking down so you can see choppers and cars moving on the streets and billboards are playing adverts. And it really brings the moment to life, because when I'm playing war games or role-play games, I like my mind to be imagining the story of what's going on, to take me there, and that's why I love having assets like, animated battle mats and battle maps, because it helps just immerse me. That's the word I'm clumsily grasping for. Right. Immersion. It really helps the immersion. But also, there's a practical nature to it, because these days, I don't know if anyone else has this problem, but when I'm trying to buy a nice battle mat to play like Warcry on or something like that, the prices are just huge. It's like 30 or 40 pounds for a really nice battle mat. And it might be, and don't get me wrong, they are quality. They're printed on hard cardboard or what's that material? Mouse mat material.
Neoprene or something?
That's the one, neoprene. Yeah. But because the materials, they're very durable and they're great quality, but it's very expensive. It's like 30, 40 pounds. Now, if you have a TV tabletop, and you could play animated battle mats on it, but you could also just use a JPEG that you found from someone that you support online or something like that. And all of a sudden, changing your battle mat is as simple as pressing a few buttons on your remote with the USB pen stuck in the back of it, and you got a new battle mat. Not 30, 40 quid. You don't have to go to the shop. It's right there in front of you. I mean, I changed my battle mat. I store my battle mats in the cloud, my animated ones, and a couple of touches on my phone, and the battle mat's changed. And it could be a static image, it could be a video, it could be whatever. But I love it, and I'm trying to create more and more assets for it. And I have a Patreon coming up just for that specific purpose, for animated battle mats for skirmish, war games, tabletop gaming.
Oh, cool, man. Yeah, I'm thinking while you're talking about, like, it's really the immersiveness of a battle background on your VTT could really. I'm thinking, like, my mind is like stuck in Traveller world, so I'm thinking, and Cyberpunk too. But I'm thinking, like, you know how, like, Star Wars has these, like, dangerous, like, landing pads out over the city, and then there's like a walkway with no rails and stuff. In
fact, well, one of the battle mats I've got in my library at the moment is set in a, like in Star Wars: A New Hope when they're in the docking bay.
I'm trying to think.
And when Obi-Wan and Vader are fighting, and the Millennium Falcon is trapped. Yeah. Well, I've not done exactly that, but it's inspired from that. And from the perspective of top down, you can see out of that energy shield out into space. And I thought I'd use that space. And so I, rather ambitiously, I created a big space battle going on outside it with laser battles and ships exploding, dog fights, all this kind of stuff that's going on just outside it. So while you're having your miniatures fight in this docking bay, there's all this big battle raging outside.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
So that's the good thing about the animated stuff. You can really get an opportunity to create a scene.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So are you involved in other, like, you used to be like a mod maker, or for Left 4 Dead, or
say that again, sorry.
Did you used to be a mod or map maker for Left 4 Dead, or
Oh, mod or map maker. Yes, I was a level designer for No More Room in Hell.
That's what I was
and I also, in my spare time, made some community maps for Left 4 Dead 2. No More Room in Hell's recently released No More Room in Hell 2, for which I wish them all the very best. I hope they do well.
Awesome.
And I draw from that when I'm creating my maps as well.
I was going to ask, were there any lessons learned from your level design skills that you carried over to your 2D Storyteller maps?
Definitely. Especially now making animated maps for tabletop skirmish games and such. You have to think about the distance, because with most games you're imagining two sides. So the distance they are apart. And when you're designing rooms, could X room be used? You want a good location room, a good objective room, good scenery. But you also, I tend to measure in inches how far they are from each other, and then I'll try and make it even distances between these locations that I want them to use as objectives. That's at the very least. But you can go all the way to actually looking at popular maps in other games and how they've done their layout, and taking some inspiration from that. For example, one of my spaceship maps, it's not dust from the first Counter-Strike. It's not, but I took a heavy inspiration from the distances they used in the layout. So I'm hoping that and I found that the gameplay has that kind of quick, active, engrossing feeling because of the way you've laid it out and the distances between everything. The same principles that you'd use when you're designing a level for No More Room in Hell or Counter-Strike or whichever online versus game, they do apply directly to tabletop gaming as well. The only difference is how those distances are going to affect the system that you're currently playing. But I think it's more important that those distances have some kind of rhyme and reason to them off the bat, and then from there, you'll see how the system uses it. That's the way I approach it. If that makes any sense. Sometimes, Frank, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm drifting into the abstract.
Well, no, how designers approach things is definitely interesting. Well, to me anyway.
I just try and make sure that the distances are fair for both sides when I'm designing a map. So I'll count the inches, and then I'll try and include locations on each map that could be used for objectives, or if I can, a nice bit of scenery or something a bit wild or crazy.
You make the maps like symmetrical from the perspective of either side.
That is the temptation.
Yeah, like if
that is always the temptation, because what you don't want is to create a map that favors one side over the other too much.
Right.
But the problem is, if you create maps that look perfectly symmetrical, they tend to become quite dull to look at very quickly.
Sure.
So that's why I count the inches, because as long as the inches have got the symmetry and they map over, so you're not giving any one side an advantage by having a much shorter distance to where you've placed, like, say, the objective room, then that usually solves the problem without you having to actually be very literal and visually just copy both sides. So anyone trying to get balance in their maps, that's what I would suggest. Count the inches and then be fair with them.
All right, that's a good tip.
Or I'll find where you live and come and stamp on your dice. It sounded a bit threatening then.
A little bit. So you are an enjoyer of vampire and werewolf role playing. Is that true?
Oh yes, that's. I've spent a lot of time with those games.
Which one did you get into? Well, I guess Vampire came out first. Did you get into that first?
Yeah, I think that's the gateway drug for the World of Darkness. I think everyone kind of gets Vampire straight away. And Vampire is great, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to bash it or anything like that. But when the other games in the World of Darkness have very different things to offer than Vampire does. Vampire is a great personal horror game if you run it like that, but it can also be a great crime thriller or political thriller. All that's woven in there, and it does well at all those things. But you look at any of the other games that they've done for the World of Darkness, Werewolf the Apocalypse is about the kind of evils of modern society and what that's done to the planet. Changeling the Dreaming is about losing the inner child within and what that means and how that affects us as human beings. And it translates that into a supernatural creature, which is the Changeling. Mage, the Awakening, completely blows your mind because it takes the idea of a mage or a witch or a warlock in the modern day world. And the best way I could describe Mage is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy said it. It's like having your brain smashed out with a slice of lemon.
Wrapped around
yeah, exactly. But in Mage, they break reality itself down into its component elements, like the periodic table, and that's how you craft magic. How good you are at controlling different individual aspects of reality, like time or distance or magical energy or space. It's crazy, but it's a beautiful game. And then you have Wraith the Oblivion, which is a seriously misunderstood and seriously underappreciated game. That's about playing a ghost and coming to terms with the fact that you're just not alive anymore and letting go. And it can get very dark, but you know what? There is no other roleplay game I've ever seen that is like Wraith. Wraith is a truly character-based RPG. And if you've got mature role players who are willing to be a bit vulnerable and create characters who are deeply flawed and a bit twisted, then Wraith is something I think you could have a lot of fun with, as long as you're not, a little bit disturbed yourself already.
This reminds me of what's the name of that show? There was a show about a ghost, three roommates, a vampire, a ghost, and a werewolf. I think that's Being Human. Yeah, Being Human. Yeah, there was a British and an American version. I never saw the English version. But I enjoyed the American version, and I was like, this is kind of a corny premise, but it played out well. I liked it in the end. I like those kinds of shows.
That show.
Yeah, it was enjoyable.
What What World of Darkness does really well, though, it adds this layer of history and culture to each one of these supernatural races, if you want to call them that.
Right.
And it gives them a full history and quite a rich and well thought out one as well. Really well written.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you absorb even just a little bit of that before you get into it, it allows you to create some really interesting characters and tell some interesting stories, which that's what I'm all about.
I played the Vampire a few times, and I enjoyed it. I think it was presented at that time like a maybe like kind of like mafia, like crime lords kind of. The vampires are kind of like it was like a political, not political, but like political with respect to like underworld crime type things. The vampire sects were like different underworld crime families, kind of. I liked the premise that the GM was going with, and I thought it was funny because my vampire had, like, I guess you can get like your heart in a displaced place, so I moved my heart to a different and then when the vampire hunters came around and tried to spike me, so they tried to spike me, and then I'd pretend to, like, like they did. Then when they get close, I'd grab him. He's dead now. Let's cut his head off. Wait.
Oh, hang on. Whoa.
Oh God, this one's still alive and kicking. How does he do it?
The crime underworld is actually a really good parallel when you're running Vampire the Masquerade, because I mean, the whole idea is all these supernatural natural creatures are hiding from normal society. So they are an underworld. So it blends really well. And for those who are interested, I've actually got packs which would work well with the World of Darkness called Dark Streets, Battlemaps, tokens, 2D Storyteller, Dark Streets. Have a look for that, guys, if you want some World of Darkness goodies or stuff that you can use with the World of Darkness.
Yeah, very cool. I'm looking at your catalog over on DriveThruRPG, and it looks like you have some like zombie theme stuff, some Strahd. I see like Quarantine, Death Knight. And of course the Galaxy Interface, which, by the way, is your second best selling product. It looks like second most popular product, Galaxy Interface.
I want to do a more advanced version of Galaxy Interface. I loved doing the idea of having trying to recreate a digital console for a spaceship on your VTT. But I did Galaxy Interface, and my zombie work was some of the first early things. I mean, Galaxy Interface was one of the first animated things I did, and I've learned a lot since then. And so, yeah, I'd like to do a follow-up of Galaxy Interface. I'm not quite sure. I mean, here's a good starting point. If you were to create a VTT animated, sci-fi console, what kind of things would you like to include in it?
Like a top-down console that might be like on the bridge or something.
Yeah, I guess so. Go with it. See, what is your imagination?
Or you mean the screen is the whole screen is the console?
Yeah, let's say that.
I don't know, maybe like little windows that have some like an information box, or maybe you're looking out the front view screen of the ship, so maybe planets. What could go on or different configurations for how to lay out the console. Maybe it could have elements for communications, or elements for scanning, or elements for different tasks. Because like in Traveller, and also like in Star Trek and stuff, you can like transfer or you can reconfigure your station to be a control station for any system. So, maybe just think of like the major, like maybe you have an engineering console and it has temperatures of the engines. Ooh. Or like, and you can make those go up or down, or, we're overheating, or, or warnings.
Maybe about... like an engineering console, which is also like a puzzle that the player has to solve, and you can just drop them on that page and see if they manage to solve it.
There you go. I was thinking about...
Come up with someone.
Yeah, there's in the I used to play in this medievalist society, and one of the things that they would do is they would have like different competitions, like pop-up competitions at events. And my wife, who's a really amazing artisan, would always like enter the arts and sciences they call them like siege event, because what they do is they give you like a bag of random things and tell you to go make a game or do something with these. And so you have to go and you're like, you have a button, a paper clip, or I don't know, it's usually like a piece of construction paper or whatever, and you have to make something and then come back and everybody shows what they made, and then there's a judge and someone wins a prize. And I was like, well, that might be cool to like do something like that in at one of these traveler events, is like make a list of like just like crazy technobabble things, like, you know, a warp spanner or a plasma conduit or whatever, and then people have to come back and like with something they've constructed or built. Oh, this is my phase modulator, and it's made from this, and this, and you have to explain how those work together to make your phase modulator.
You know what? If you do that, you should call it technobabble.
Technobabble? Yeah, it would be like, you have to...
No, that should be the name of it. The event. You're going to technobabble.
Yeah, and then we just see who can do the best technobabble with the parts we gave them.
Hey, a good way.
That could be like a similar. That was just giving me a similar idea for your like puzzle idea. If you have an engineering console and you drop them in there, and then you have this puzzle of like all these pieces that only fit together in one way, and the player has to like put them together or whatever, or do it in modular sections, or I don't know how. Personally, I hate puzzles. I love things but some people like puzzles. I put in like a coded message with just a substitution cipher, and one of my players was all about figuring out that message.
Oh yeah, did they enjoy that?
They did. They spent they didn't pay attention to the game because they spent half an hour decrypting the message.
I love it when a player's eyes light up with something that they've found or they're interacting with, or a storyline or an NPC they get attached to, and they get so. I love it when players get invested and you can really flesh it. You know, that's when roleplay really comes into its own, when we're all really on board and we got a clear image in his head. I love that.
I had no idea he would do that. I was just like, okay, they'll have to just figure this out. It was obviously a substitution cipher because it was just English, and you could like identify certain letters were probably R, S, T, L, N, E or whatever, there was a way to figure it out. And, but he just sat down and he worked it out, and he's like, read the message back, and he figured it all out. But yeah, he was totally focused on that. And I didn't think anybody, I thought they would all work it out together over time or whatever, but he's like, I'm on it.
I'm on it. I'm on it, Captain.
Yeah. You never know what's gonna But yeah, let's talk about your Galaxy interface. Tell us, give us a description of that product.
Galaxy interface. It's a way to recreate a sci-fi console in your virtual tabletop. So it's something you could put together, and your players, you drop them on it, and instead of saying, "Oh, well, this is the Galaxy, this is what it looks like," you get planets with it, you get a black hole with it, you get console elements that are animated and moving around. I even include soundtracks, so you get all the beep boop beep boop beep boop noises and such like that. And you get maps of blank space with nebulas in it to place all these assets and basically create like a galaxy. And then the assets you need to make it look like a console. So it's something for you to construct a nice page that you could bring your players onto, and it feels like they're all gathered around a console on a spaceship. So even if it's just them having a discussion in between adventures and battle maps, it's a nice, inspiring feature, basically.
You can make it look like they're in orbit above this planet, or they're or maybe just put. You could take the console part away and drop down ship markers and have a combat in space.
Absolutely, if you wanted to do that. But I also have packs where if you wanted to do ship combat that are tailored for that, like Starship battles. In that, it's got capital class ships, dogfighters, frigates, space stations, and that's like, tokens and battle maps. That's a nice value pack. It's got all the things you need to get going for Starship battles. So if you want to do Starship battles, that's probably more down your line. If you're looking for more like a grim corporate
where do you
future
get where do you get the Starship battles in the
Starship Battles is up on Roll20. It's on Fantasy Grounds.
okay.
Don't think it's quite on Arkham Forge yet, but I spin plates and dealing with chemo and stuff like that takes up some of my time. So it's just a matter of getting it around on everything. But I've also got another one, Biomechanical Wreck, which is it's heavily inspired by certain movies, but it's like my own mini adventure. It's system agnostic, but it gives you a system for exploring an alien vessel that you find on a barren, desolate world, and you're trying to basically get the engine started or find treasure or loot or any number of things that are in there.
What are these weird egg-shaped things?
There's nothing that
Why don't you
specific.
put your face close to it and see?
Look, I don't have eggs. I have space snakes that fly around and burrow into your body and eat your muscles and breed inside you.
Gross.
Yeah. It's nothing like any particular film I won't mention. Or better yet, I have I can't remember what I called it. It's something like the Bulbous Hulk, and it's just this alien that if you find it, it just keeps growing and growing and spreading through the corridors, and it's just a mass of flesh and teeth. So yeah, if you want to terrify your players, Biomechanical Wreck is a wonderful addition to any sci-fi campaign. And it's system agnostic. So.
Yeah, that's great to make it system agnostic. And then you have Xenomorph or something like that, or man, where's your catalog list?
Go on to Roll20, you'll see the extensive one there.
Oh, okay. I'm there. I'm gonna
okay.
2D Storyteller.
2D Storyteller Roll20.
Yes.
Yes, good. Yes, click that button. Yes, click it good.
Making it sound like a dirty David Attenborough. Did someone order a pizza?
I once knew a woman from East Cheam.
Did someone order a pizza?
Did someone?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm here to fix your plumbing.
I'm here for the plumbing. Yes. Hostile organism. That's what I was trying to say.
Hostile organism. Yes, that's the one I mentioned earlier with the animated assets.
Yeah.
In that, I include a modular map tile, so you can basically create the internal layouts of starships. But also, there's some kind of horrible alien creature aboard this starship with you. And I also include animated character tokens for the crew as well as various horrible things which might happen to them as well.
Yeah, I love that expansion. It has like, you know, your crew being dragged into the tunnels, or like, you know, horrible
dragged
things.
into vents, having their throat explode as an alien parasite leaps out.
Yeah, that's
all kinds of unpleasant things. Exactly. But also, like, there's an animation, you know, like I told you, the interactive asset. I did rather ambitiously in the shuttle bay. I made a whole shuttle, so if you click it, the doors open, the shuttle goes out into space, the doors shut again. Or you could like have it in reverse, so the shuttle's coming home. Lovely things like that, and also animated. There's all kinds of stuff. But also there's a bundle if you're interested in bundles. So I include Galaxy Interface, Hostile Organism, and Starship Battles, which would basically give a GM enough to play on an actual battle map, have a Starship battle, or have your players grouped around a console. Add Biomechanical Wreck into that, and you've got a whole wealth of sci-fi orientated goodies to be going away at.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Biomechanical Wreck. I like how it has the ship layouts, the maps. It's very immersive. It's it's well designed. I like it. Well done.
I appreciate that. It's that's not got as much love as I would like, because I really did put my back into the game side of the, because it is a mini game. It's a mini game to tag on to an RPG. So as opposed to you having to decide everything that's around the ship, the system revolves around trying to reactivate the ship. So you're trying to get power back to the different systems of a ship that is so alien, you've no idea how it functions. And then along the way, there are different kinds of creatures which threaten to do horrible things to your players. And what more could you ask from a night of sci-fi gaming than being under terrifying mortal danger while trying to reactivate a completely unfamiliar starship in the backs of some kind of galaxy?
Yeah, that's definitely sounds fun. Right up my alley.
As always, I include a butt-kicking musical score, which almost all my packs have audio files with them, which is, is one more thing I tried to make myself stand out with.
Cool. Yeah, man, you have a lot of variety of things in your catalog, from zombie to cyberpunk to fantasy.
My ADHD is acutely highlighted by my library of assets.
Where do you get your inspiration from? Do you have like do you have a community of users that ask for things, or do you just
I've always been someone who I live in my imagination a lot of the time. Whenever I'm not around people, my mind is off in fantasy places, traveling through stories, thinking of interesting characters and locations. I grew up with 80s movies, so that infects my imagination a lot, and I love big, gaudy ideas. And yeah, I get to, people who use my packs come up with suggestions, ideas, sometimes requests. And when the opportunity arises and I've got the time to do it, I'm more than happy to fulfill those requests. I mean, the Death Knight and the Count Dracula style tokens, that wasn't something I'd ever intended to do, but some of my players were keen to have that on the board, so I thought, well, I'll make it, and then once I've made it, I can add it to my library then.
Yeah, very cool.
So if anyone's got any suggestions, I'm always open to ideas. Come along, join my Facebook. That's the easiest place to grab a hold of me. I know Facebook's not everyone's kind of thing, but I get sick of bouncing around all the different social media platforms, so I just try to stick in. Well, I'll hear you on the rest, but Facebook, I'll be, you'll hear from me quickly.
Gotcha. Let's see. What else should we talk about? Well, have you? What about sci-fi pop culture? Have you been enjoying any movies or TV shows? Did you see Dune? Did you see
Dune? Oh, dude. You see, films have been a massive part of my life all my life. I used to teach visual effects for film and digital film production. I have a massive love of films. And because of that, I have a tendency to turn my nose up at a lot of things. And I'm a bit of a snob. And I make no apologies about that. It's because I want to like stuff. And people seem to put so much effort into just ruining it. But anyway, to keep it positive, yes. Dune, I thought, was a fantastic rendition of the book. I still love the original Dune, because I love someone just trying to make Star Wars for goths. I thought that was still a good film. But the latest Dune, I thought it was a great offering. I think the way they spread out the events, I could have done that. I would have liked that a little bit differently. But I'm nitpicking there. It was good. I liked it, especially the Sardaukar. That perhaps was my favorite idea that I saw them bring to life on screen. That chanting, buddy. I loved that. I love Mongol throat singing as well, so that helped. I love the way that they tried to bring each faction to life using culture and not just costume. The costume was there, but the culture was deeply ingrained. I really appreciated that.
There's the freaky look of people who are pale with no eyebrows.
Yeah, the Harkonnens or the Harkonnens, depending on how much of a purist you are. That took me by surprise. I liked the Harkonnens in the David Lynch version. Their style, I liked it. I remember as a kid having some of the Dune toys and the worm and that Harkonnen style, it really spoke bad guy. I didn't expect the way they did it in that, but I did like it. Probably for completely different reasons, I think. And they also explained it. It's like, what, is there no color pigment on their planet or so? I can't remember what it was. There's something about the Harkonnens' home world where color is just not a thing.
Yeah, I don't know about that part of the lore. I thought that maybe they just had, you know, like a bright sun or like a white sun or like some sort of... I don't know.
Because I reread Dune just before I watched the new movie, and
it's
I
not
didn't
clear.
see any... I can't remember.
Do they make themselves white like that? Or do they shave their
books,
eyebrows off? Or are they born that way?
I think it's because of their planet. It's something to do with their planet. Like, I'm probably wrong, but I think they're like near a black hole or something like that, and it's something to do with what's happened to their planet. That because color's meant to be all to do with some kind of spectrum of, you know what, radiation. I don't know. I'm about to get everything wrong, but it's something we only see colors for some, you know, chemical reason.
Right, the wavelengths that are reflected.
That's it, the wavelengths of light and the reflected. And I think that's what it is. It's that on their planet, the wavelengths are all messed up, and so therefore everything's black and white. Why have they got black teeth? That's the question that was coming to my mind. I was like, why? What's with the black teeth?
Maybe they...
But you know what? They had the guts to not explain themselves, and I respect that. Because then it's up to us why all this stuff is the way it is.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we wouldn't be wondering about it now.
Exactly. And that takes guts, because everyone, you know, as a writer, you're always feeling that pressure. Oh, and that's why this is happening. But actually, I think you shouldn't try and do that. And it's the same when you GM it. Don't explain yourself. Let them discover it if that's really what they... I'm waffling again, Frank. I'm sorry. I must be the worst interview you ever do.
No, man. You're doing fine. No, because you know, a lot of people's brains work that way. That's how mine works. One thing leads to another.
My brain's like a pinball.
It's all related. You know, because we're who's our audience? They're GMs and players of, you know, RPGs, and they think the same way. So,
yeah. Oh, with any luck.
Yeah. What about you mentioned when we were talking earlier that you really liked Andor.
Andor, yes. Oh, you see, I'm a massive Star Wars fan from a kid. My favorite of the original series was Return of the Jedi. I was a massive cynic. I'll hold my hand up about the prequels. My nephew loves them, though, so, you know, I've had to learn to like them. And the sequels, I can't say that they grabbed me all that much. I thought the VFX was incredible, but the storyline didn't grab me. Whereas Andor, whoever made Andor, I don't know. I really respect the way they approach Star Wars. They focus on believable. I won't say realistic, because we all know it's fiction, but they make the effort to try and make their characters believable, and I think that's missing from a lot of people's attempts at Star Wars. A lot of the time with Star Wars, it feels like, oh well, if I give them this costume and this weapon, oh well, I've got a character there, and that's not true. Characters are flawed, characters are complicated, characters are messy inside, and Andor is not afraid to do that. I like that. I mean, it's like Andor, at times you're like, well, who's the good guy? I know the rebellion, but look at the stuff they do. And then suddenly the Empire, they're making you wonder as well. And Deidre, I'm about to get a name wrong because it's a Star Wars name. It's Deidre Miro. She's like this Imperial Secret Service agent, and she is my favorite villain since Vader, I think, because she's right up there with Grand Moff Tarkin. She's just what's distinctive about her is she's just got this razor sharp mind, and it subtly has that issue she has to deal with of being a woman in a world dominated by men, but it doesn't treat her like a wilting flower. She's not some helpless victim of this world. She's another player, and she uses their own assumptions about her being a woman to her advantage. She's just such a fantastic villain. I can't wait to see more of her. Deidre Milo. I'm getting it wrong, but yeah. And if you haven't watched it, Frank, I can't recommend it enough. Put the time in when you got a chance and watch Andor, because season 2's coming up, and I cannot wait.
I did watch the first episode and I liked it. I just have a problem with personal problem with watching TV. I don't do it much.
Why?
I'm busy producing.
Well, I can relate to that.
Yeah, and it's to me, it's watching TV is kind of idle time. But then I do it sometimes to relax, but it's too tempting to like sit in front of the TV for 4 hours and just let your brain turn off. And then I feel like, oh man, I could have used that 4 hours to like do, come to have something to show for 4 hours worth of effort, but
I can relate to that, man. I can relate to that, but at the same time, you have to make time to feed your imagination. It's important to train your brain and get some good stories in there.
Yeah, that's true.
Be kind to your brain, man. Be kind to your imagination. You've got to keep it well.
What's the last book you read? And I was like a technical manual.
Dude, don't do this to yourself. Get some good stuff in there. There are great things still out there. Not everything's been devoured by the corporate franchise monster.
I used to read for fun a lot more when I was younger. I think I just read everything I was interested in, and then I've just been interested in doing my own thing since then, and just focusing on that. But that's just my own character flaw.
I understand that, but treat your imagination. Give it some fresh
I should.
soil to, and think of it. Hey, here's a way to think about it. You're making an investment, because the more limber your imagination is, the better your ideas for things you want to create will be. So really, think of it as research and development. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah, I've given you a premise there. Now watch Andor.
I'll try to do my homework. I'll find time to do my homework. So tell us what you're up to. What are your plans for the next upcoming year?
Well, as I say, I'm launching a Patreon, so all my efforts have been in preparation for that. Trying to develop really, exciting animated battle mats, should I say, for the TV tabletop. And there's a lot of sci-fi stuff involved. There's some fantasy stuff too, but I don't get a chance to work on sci-fi as much as I'd like, and I've got a big passion for it. So the TV tabletop's really been my chance to let my wings spread. Also, I've been working with Legitimate Games on a game called Metanthropes. I've been creating battle maps and character tokens for that. They've just gone through their second Kickstarter for Metanthropes Anthologies, which I believe is a zine, which is me showing my age. I'm not quite sure what the difference is between a zine and a full RPG is, but they seem to be creating a full RPG, even though they're calling it a zine. So I recommend everyone go and check out Metanthropes Anthologies. There's some really nice stuff available there.
What's it about?
Oh yeah, I totally forgot. I forgot the product.
What's the premise?
Oh my god! Metanthropes are creatures. Metanthropes are people. Metanthropes are people too.
People too.
They are interdimensional beings that don't know they're interdimensional beings until they get basically awoken. So very much like Morpheus would find Neo, the Metanthropes go from dimension to dimension, trying to basically awake these Metanthropes so they can get involved in what is basically this big interdimensional conflict which is going on between these rather, almost Cthulhuan, almost Lovecraftian style monsters that are in the galaxy, and then actual Metanthropes which have gone down more darker paths and are trying to dominate dimensions in order to increase their own personal strength and power. So yeah, it's like a cross between a sci-fi game and I suppose a bit of a superhero-esque style game, because there are lots of big special interdimensional powers which they gain as they travel from dimension to dimension.
That sounds interesting.
So yeah, as a player, you take on a role of a Metanthrope, and yeah, they're on the second Kickstarter, and I've been with them since the first, and they're a pair of Greek gentlemen John and Lefty, as I know him. Yeah, and it's been an absolute blast working with him, and hopefully I'll keep working with him in the future because it seems to be doing really well so far.
Awesome. Sounds like a creative idea. I like Call of Cthulhu. I think you recently saw my my image I did of myself in the padded room. I'd like to play Call of Cthulhu now.
Roll for your sanity. One thing I like about working with the Greek gentleman is because the idea of traveling from dimension to dimension, that opens massive possibilities. They travel through time and space, and so when they're throwing at me the things they want me to create, it's always a surprise. It always keeps me on my toes. I had to create a monster that's also like part fungi. And you know what? It isn't as easy as you might think to look at a mushroom and think, how can I make you evil and scary? But I managed it in the end, and I really like what they've come up with and the way it's turned out.
Oh, cool. All right. You got any interest here? I have some random gaming questions for you. You ready for the first one?
Oh, go on then. I'll see. Hang on, let me prep. I'm ready.
Oh, you're ready. Okay.
I'm ready.
If you were a traveler merchant or a space merchant, what kind of cargo would you haul?
I would exclusively carry things of a personal nature for the aristocrats of the galaxy.
Oh?
I would be a specialist smuggler for those in the know.
See. Like, what kinds of, do you have any
alien dildos?
No. Oh, that is a specialty item.
Sorry.
Oh my goodness.
Oh God, no.
All right then. I was going to ask for like psionic blocking toupee or something.
Alien contraband. Contraband.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. That went south. Okay. Here's another one. Okay. Let's see. If you were a noble in the Traveller universe, how would you use your influence?
I would use it to control the galaxy with an iron fist, making sure only the people who worshipped and adored me had any success within the culture.
All right.
Because I like playing people who are not like me, and I believe in justice and fairness. So it's nice to shekel that off when I'm playing a character and just be evil.
Evil. Do you have a favorite sci-fi book, movie, or TV series that inspires you?
I've watched a lot of different series. Sci-fi, I suppose Andor is the one that's really getting me at the moment. I love the way it's written. I love the way it's produced. I love the characters. I won't say Andor's the most interesting character out of all of them because I usually find the villains, if they're well written, to be the most interesting. Not that I relate to them, but I find them fascinating to watch.
All right, here's one last question. You're stranded on a low-tech world. What 3 sci-fi items or equipment would you wish you had?
Well, first of all, a towel. Because wherever you go in the galaxy, you need to know where your towel is.
That's right.
A Swiss Army knife, because it doesn't matter what planet it is, you're going to need a corkscrew at some point. And a warp coil generator.
What are you going to do with that?
At some point, it's going to come in handy. If I want to get off the planet, I'm not going to do it with 2 sticks rubbing together. That's not going to cut
true.
it. I'm going to need a power source.
Right.
So, and it all starts with an engine.
Good point.
I could build wings out of some wood or something, but, I need the engine.
I'm going to build a wooden spaceship.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, don't tell me I can't build a wooden spaceship. This is America.
I'll
If I want to
seal
build
the
a wooden
seams with
spaceship,
tar. Yeah, I got it all planned.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can't tell me I can't eat glass.
All right, Neil.
If I want to eat glass, that's my right.
What's a good way to find you and your goodies, your products?
Come along and see me at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitter, but preferably Facebook. Or find my work on Roll20, Marketplace, Fantasy Grounds, Arkenforge, Drive-Through RPG. You'll find me on all these sites. Just search 2D Storyteller. I assure you, I am there.
Fantastic. Well, folks, today my guest has been Neil Thorpe, creator of 3D animated battle maps at 2D Storyteller. Bring your Traveller games to life with animated battle maps on VTT and Tabletop. What do you call that? Tabletop maps. TV map thing.
My bad habits are rubbing off on you, sir.
Yes. Well, Neil, thanks again for participating in the event.
Much obliged, I'm sure.
And thank you, dear listener. Until next time, happy traveling. Don't fly solo through the galaxy. Click like to join our alliance. Subscribe for your crew pass and enable notifications to never miss an encounter. This journey is fueled by my patrons. Thank you, patrons. Feel the thrill of discovery. Become a patron and join the adventure.